Welcome to the Worry Free Podcast by Event Resources. I'm Lee Simmons. Are you having an outdoor event or planning an event that needs to provide catering? If so, where do you start? What do you need to know? How much food do you need? Lots of good questions, and we have the right person to answer them. Joining me for this discussion is Jim Bucko, Managing Partner at Riverhouse Properties. Jim, from the first conversation that an event planner is having, what should they be talking to a caterer about?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. First thing is the venue. Do they provide catering or do they not? And if they don't, then you'll have to go find a caterer. And does that venue have an exclusive caterer that they work with? Or do they have a list of preferred caterers? Or is it just open to whoever they can bring? That's kind of the first question with the venue. And then from there, they can start looking at food packages, wedding packages. Is it all-inclusive, or is it an a la carte menu to where you can pick and choose what you want? Or, again, like I said, is everything included? That's typically how caterers will work and can provide whatever you need for the day of your event or wedding.
And so I can imagine the average person planning it might not know those answers. So how do they ask the right questions? Like, how do they need to know if they should be doing it a la carte or a buffet style or things of that?
Great question, and the best answer is they don't. And that's where they need to go to a professional, kind of what in our business to be able to answer those questions for them. And they'll go and see different venues and have their likes and dislikes, but really the first question with the caterer is, or with the venue is, for me renting the venue, what do I get for that? Typically, it will be venue and grounds, tables and chairs, and then the caterer will take it from there. With Riverhouse Catering, when we do our events, we take it from bare table up. So we include linens, china, glassware, silverware, table numbers, the things that brides and grooms may not have thought of how do my guests know which table that they're at. We provide those things, or we'll work with the client that if they have their own table numbers, that they want to name their tables after their all the streets they've lived on for their life, just something quirky or custom to their event. We will get all that from them and put that out when we set the room.
And one thing that has been asked, I've heard, is what's like included in the cost? Do they understand, sometimes you need bartenders, there's obviously the wait staff, tax, gratuity, things like that. How does that all factor in of understanding, like first conversation, so the planner knows what they're walking in the door, just structurally what the cost consists of?
Yeah. So like with the way we've structured our packages in the company is it's an all-inclusive package. Talking about weddings, basically what a client will need to go get for the night of their wedding will be their DJ or their entertainment, band, DJ or band, photographer, and florist. Our package includes everything else, so they don't have to think about those questions that they don't even know to ask up front. We help them answer that by including everything in our packages, from the rentals of china, glassware, silverware to 20 different colors of linens for tablecloth and napkin, all the service staff, bartenders, food, beverage, coordination of it, of not only the planning phase, but then also the operations phase. So we'll have someone separately working with them for the coordination, and then our operations team will meet with them the week of their wedding so everybody's on the same page, and then our operations team is there running the events. And one of the things that we've always done in our company is provide a bride and groom attendant. So it's one staff member that's just with the bride and groom or with the event planner the entire time of the event to keep them on track, keep them on their timeline, answer any questions that come up, go with any changes that come in. We have that one person that their sole responsibility is right there with the bride and groom or client. So they don't have to go look for somebody, they're always right there with them.
Got it. So the first initial meeting, you guys the caterer or someone in your shoes would set the stage of this is what to expect. This is what you're going to get. This is the stuff that you need to provide, just so they have an understanding, again, the cost structure and what their responsibilities are to move forward. That's
correct.
Got it. Can you walk us through the process then? You have that first conversation, and then you have the event day. Can you kind of just generally walk us through the process of from from that start to finish?
Yeah, so kind of going back to what I did talk about, so once somebody decides our company is who they want to go with, then we turn them over to our coordinator, and they will work on all their details. Usually what happens first is we will get them in for a tasting, so they can taste menu, pick food, what they want to have, and then the next step is their detail meeting, where we will send them a list of questions that they need to answer ahead of time. Again, those questions that they don't know to ask yet, we provide them with it. So when they sit down for their detail meeting, they can say, hey, here's the colors that we want. Here's how we want the room set. Here's when our first dance is going to be. When is the cake cutting? All of those questions are answered, and then that week of the wedding or the event, we turn it over to our operations team. They meet with the client, so our client feels confident that everything they've worked on with our coordinator for a year and a half, 6 months, now our operations team know all the details. They're there on site running the event.
So you guys seem to do that well. If someone is having a catered event, let's say it's an outdoor party and they're just hiring a caterer, that caterer might not ask those same questions. Is there anything that the event planner can do to prompt those questions, the questions they don't know? If someone's not providing those answers initially, how does the event planner get those questions asked?
So that's now they have to Google wedding planning or start asking advice, and now the work is a little bit more on them rather than coming to somebody that once they book with us, we say, we've got you from now till your event. We've done it for decades and decades. We know the questions that you're going to ask before you ask them, so we'll prompt you with those so that when it comes time, you'll have answers for those.
So that actually is intriguing. So an event planner, if they're looking around talking to different caterers, that might be something what prompts them to go in one direction versus another. It might have nothing to do with the food.
Absolutely.
Just the service they're getting. If they aren't getting the answers, or they're going in confused and this other option is giving them more answers, that alone might be a reason to go with them, food aside.
And it's a great point, because if you're a caterer, you do great food, period. You wouldn't be in the catering business if you didn't. It's the other ancillary things that really make the success of the event important, because now you have somebody that knows how to lead you down the questions that need to be asked. If you don't have that, now kind of the work is on the client, and or some things maybe get missed.
You're talking about food and stuff. How does the tastings play into effect? I've heard different things, like do people usually get tastings? Do they have to pay for tastings? Is it just a sample of different options? Like, can you explain more of that process?
So we do have a couple of different ways that we do it. Typically, we have our grand tastings. We do them quarterly, and then our clients, we usually get them in 5 to 8 months ahead of the wedding time, talking about a wedding, where they'll come into one of those tastings, they'll taste all of and by doing group tastings, now we can prepare pretty much the entire menu rather than an individual tasting where they would pick a few things, because if we're doing a tasting for 2 to 6 people, we can't prepare the entire menu. It's too much. But when we do it in a group setting, now we can prepare the entire menu, and brides and grooms are here with other brides and grooms, and they're hearing what others are doing for their wedding, and hey, tell me more about that. We have DJs that may be at the tasting. We'll have different florists that do centerpieces on the table so people can see their services. But we also let people know that if you want to drive the car before you buy it, and I don't want to book a $30,000 wedding before I try the food,
right,
we'll do a private tasting ahead of time, but then still get them in for the grand tasting. Now that when we do the double tasting, there is an additional cost, but it's nominal. It's like $60 a person, and anybody that does a private tasting that we charge for, and they end up booking with us, we just credit it towards their wedding. So it's basically like 2 free tastings at that point.
So, a lot of corporate events that we work with, is that a common thing too? If someone's planning their gala, if someone's planning their corporate meeting, and there's breakfast, if it's a breakfast, if it's a nighttime dinner, whatever it might be, is it the same idea that you could do it as a group setting if there's multiple things, or would that be more individualized?
Yeah, for corporate it's usually individualized because it's more of a specific menu rather than with our weddings of, here's our wedding menu. You have plenty to choose from, where corporate, even though we have menus for that as well. It's more diverse than it is where, what do you want to do? Is it a cocktail hour or is it a full sit-down dinner, with the CEO? So a lot of that is done more on a private tasting basis. And usually we see, especially for the galas, when you have several people tasting, you have a lot of different opinions, so we end up doing 2 and 3 different tastings for people, but that's what we do. So sometimes it takes more than just one tasting to get it right.
Makes sense. Let's talk about timing. How far in advance should people be booking caterers, because things get booked up? And when do final counts have to be given?
So when I get that question all the time from people, and my suggestion is, as soon as you know you're having a wedding or an event, get your venue booked. Don't wait, because dates could be gone, where it's not an ideal date and you're having to settle for a date that may not be perfect for everyone. So book it as soon. We book events, corporate and social, and more so corporate and wedding, up to 24 months in advance.
Wow, that far.
So my suggestion always is, once you know, get your venue booked and then start booking your other services, especially the caterer. Because again, if somebody has 3 or 4 caterers that they can choose, and 3 of those 4 are already booked, now you don't have any choices. You have to go with one. So get it booked as soon as possible. And then in regards to counts, in our company for our venues, the Riverhouse and the Society Room, we don't need final counts until 72 hours prior to the event. That's really when our chef finalizes meal counts so that he can prep, finalize orders with our distributor. The operations team can finalize staff, things along those lines. For the catering, the offsite, when we cater at different venues, we ask to have those final counts a week in advance. It's really not needed more than that. Some people say, hey, we need it a month in advance, and everybody does business differently. We don't finalize menus until really that week of, so we don't feel that we need it sooner than that.
Got it. And in terms of head count, what are things that event planners need to remember? Who are other than the guests, who are other people that they need to remember as part of their count when they're giving you guys the final numbers?
Yeah, so vendors, who's going to be there from an audio visual standpoint, from, their photographer or a videographer during an event. They'll need to be served a meal, and typically the client will pay for those. We do a much a big reduced rate for vendors, because really they're just having a meal. The other services, they better not be drinking from the bar, but it's just that meal, so it's a reduced cost for that. But also things like children, you don't want to have a kid that's 8 years old at full price at a wedding or in a, not so much a corporate event, because kids usually aren't there, but at a wedding, we reduce those rates even, it's like $15 for a kid. And then you'll get chicken fingers and fries. Instead of a salad, we'll do a fresh fruit cup for the kids. Give them 2 pieces of wedding cake so they enjoy the cake rather than, they always like the dessert more than anything. But those are really the kind of the outside services, is the vendors, and the children.
Cost is always an important question that comes up. Can you just help explain a normal cost structure? If you kind of break it into off-site catering and then also venue, just a normal cost structure for any caterer planning an event.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, with our 2 venues that we own, Society Room in Hartford and Riverhouse down in Haddam, we have an all-inclusive package. Okay, so it's a price per person, and prices vary depending on demand of the day. Saturday nights, everybody wants them, they're the highest in cost. From a corporate standpoint, that will vary, and we're very upfront with the clients that will say, hey, on this day, here's our food and beverage minimum. So that if somebody says, I want to come in for 30 people for dinner on a Saturday night in October, you're paying wedding prices, because we know we're going to book that with a wedding. So to give that up, that prime Saturday night that we only have 4 of in the month of October, then we give them their food and beverage minimum, and they can make a decision, yes or no, that we want to do a Saturday. Or I'll come back to them and say, would you consider doing a Wednesday in October when the demand isn't there? Now I have much more flexibility to work within your budget. Again, also appreciated by the event planners, because a lot of them don't know that, hey, Saturday nights we're going to book at a wedding. They just want a Saturday night because
they don't
it's
know.
the best night to do. So from a cost standpoint, that all will vary depending on caterer. But even with our off-site packages, it's the same thing. Here's everything that you get. Here's your cost. So they have to factor in their venue rental and then their catering rental.
And is the type of food play a factor in it, meaning like our steak dinners or chicken, like is that, I'm assuming, a factor in the cost, the type of meal they're having?
It can be. With ours, we include everything. Again, it's a budget thing that if somebody has a 200-person wedding and the filet mignon entree is $15 more than chicken Napoleon, and 180 people pick the filet mignon, now their cost just went up with tax and service charge almost $3,000 that they may have not planned for. So with ours, we include whatever is on our menu is included for the price that they book at, so there's no surprises with their end number.
Related to that, how do they know when it's something, a sit-down dinner or buffet style? Because I know every event is a different situation, but maybe money-wise, or actually money-wise and just event-wise, what would be your recommendation when to look at, well, should we do a sit-down dinner or buffet style?
And same, it's the same cost to do any. Some places will say, hey, it's more to do a plated sit-down dinner or more to do a buffet. It really, with a buffet, there's a little less staff attention that's needed, where there's more for a plated sit-down dinner. But there's more food when you do a buffet because you don't know who's going to take what, so chef has to prepare more than he would for a plated dinner because that's portioned out and he knows exactly what's going on that plate. So it's all included in the same cost, and it really comes down to the client. Do you want more social type of event to where a wedding? You could do a very elegant wedding by doing a buffet, but it lends itself to being more social because people are up and down out of their chairs a little more than they would be sitting for an hour and a half for a plated dinner. That's all up to the client, and that's why we include it. So they don't have to make a monetary decision of, we're going to have to spend $5,000 more to do a plated dinner. They can choose whatever they want. So that's really a client-driven, what style do they want to do? We've had clients that say, hey, can we move our first course? We usually do a 4-course served dinner. Can we move our first course to a station, say a pasta station during cocktail hour, so it gives them less time sitting for dinner but more dance time? There's all kinds of different ways, and again, that's where it comes down to the event coordinator on our side to be able to talk through those things that somebody coming into it may not have known.
Got it. And talk about food, also thinking about bars, again, whether it's at the venue or if it's external and they hire bartenders, how do they know how many bartenders are needed, how much money goes into that? Is per consumption normal? Is it open bar? Like, how did the planner know the right option of that and costs associated of quantity of people versus bartenders, things like that?
So we see typically a lot of our corporate events will go with a consumption, knowing that it's going to be a little less than in cost than if they went with a full open bar. Now again, depending on what the situation is. Is it a gala where it's a Saturday night, people may have an extra cocktail at something like a gala? It definitely behooves the client in a wedding situation to do an open bar because drinking goes hand in hand with the wedding celebration. So again, something else that we walk our clients through to be able to help them understand what is the best scenario for them to do. But all of our weddings, we include a full 5-hour open bar so that it's just included in the package for the client.
Got it. One question I've always wanted to ask a caterer is the leftovers. What can be done with them? Can events planners take them? Does it have to get thrown away for health reasons? What's that?
A couple of things. We don't allow people to take food home, and really the main reason is it's out of our control and out of a temperature-controlled situation. Okay, so you have the worst 3 words, 2 words, whatever it is you can say in our business is foodborne illness. You know, and if the food is out of our control, so let's say somebody takes 2 pans of food and they put them in the backseat of their car when they leave, they forget about it till the next morning, but boy, those bacon wrapped scallops were great and I'm not ready to throw them out, and they decide to eat them. who's it coming back to? The caterer. So a lot of caterers will not allow food to be taken home. When we have situations of large leftovers, we do a lot of donations to food pantries. In Hartford, we do St. Vincent de Paul. In Middletown, we'll take leftovers over to those resources that they, one, have the facilities to be able to manage and keep it refrigerated properly until storage or until service, but great cause.
If you're having, you mentioned about going back to alcohol for a second. If you're having an event not at the venue, if it's in a backyard, if it's at a banquet hall, anything like that, and they're going to hire a caterer, what does the event planner need to do about the alcohol situation? Is it a permit? Does that fall on the event planner? Does it fall on the caterer? Can you walk us through that?
Yes, typically the venue, if it's just a venue and they're not serving the alcohol, they won't have a liquor license. That's where it will come through the caterer. You know, as in our situation, we have 3 liquor licenses in the company. We have an off-site liquor license to go to different venues and serve. We have one for the Riverhouse, and we have one for the Society Room. Plus, all of our bartenders are TIPS certified, TIPS trained. It's a certification every 2 years that walk them through of what is liquor liability for the company and for you personally serving alcohol. As a bartender in the state of Connecticut and most states, if you overserve somebody and something bad happens, they can be held personally liable for that. So to have those bartenders that are always tip certified is very important. And when you're working with professional bar staff, professional event planners, not as big a deal at our venues because we have a liquor storage. If we run out of Grey Goose, we'll go get another bottle. When you are out in the middle of a field under a tent, there is no liquor room. So to be able to know and ask those questions ahead of time, is your family vodka drinkers, tequila drinkers, are they beer drinkers? So now we have an understanding of who's coming, and then we can properly stock our truck so that that acts as our storage facility, that when we run out of Stella at the bar, somebody can go to the truck and get a cold case of Stella and bring it back to the bar.
That makes sense. Talking about tents and outdoor events, event planners or people having events might run into a situation where the event needs to be postponed or canceled due to weather conditions or any other conditions. What are most cancellation or postponement policies by caterers in that situation?
Yeah, so every caterer that may see this is cringing at this point because this is that loaded question. It's very difficult that, especially in today's day and age where when I grew up, 12 inches of snow was no big deal. You go to school. Where now you get the threat of snow and people want to cancel. So it's a very difficult situation. We're very open to working with people in situations like that. My directive to our clients is we need to make this decision before all the food is ordered because we don't want to cancel something and we have all the food in-house because now the client's going to at minimally pay for that because what are we going to do with that food? The good thing with weather these days, and now has been for years and years, is the best thing that has ever happened to our business is Doppler radar. We know 10 days in advance, a week in advance, if a severe storm is coming, and then we can proactively have that conversation with the client of do we want to look at postponing this to another date, and if so, let's do that before schedules are finalized with our staff. Food is ordered, things along those lines. And we also talk to the client of not only is it a situation of your guests may not be able to come to your event, maybe our staff can't get in. So let's have that collective conversation ahead of time. And if it makes sense for all of us, let's find the next best available day.
Got it. And is there any other advice, just overall, that you can give an event planner who's planning a gala, corporate event, anything else that they should be coming prepared to ask the questions or information they should be giving caterers for their events?
Yeah, some food is always, that's why they're coming to a caterer, is food. Okay, so something that should be talked about is quantities. Are we going to have an hour cocktail hour and food has run out 20 minutes into it? Is food replenished throughout? Some things like that. What are portion sizes on the plates? Ask to see. I would like to see at a tasting what a portion size of a plate will be. Those are two of kind of the big food questions. Also, every caterer charges a service fee, okay? Ours goes towards the staff wages. We pay our staff a higher wage, so there's not the bickering of, hey, I work 3 hours, I work 6 hours, I work 3.5 hours, where does the gratuity get dispersed? We pay them a higher wage. That service goes towards their wages. So we don't tell our clients you have to tip on top of that service charge. Extra gratuity is always appreciated by our staff, and I tell our clients if they do a wonderful job, please consider, an additional tip for them. That's a great question to ask. What does the service fee go towards? And if somebody can't answer that question, a little bit of a red flag. I'll be able to tell you exactly what it is, and 95% of caterers will be able to do the same thing of what does that go for. Then the last question that I always recommend to people is ask about what fees are not included in this, the dreaded cake cutting fee. I've been doing weddings for 30 years and I still don't know what a cake cutting fee is. Is there staff fees? Are there additional fees for linen that if I go outside of black or white, do I have to pay extra for that? What are the additional fee question is a big one that an event planner, a bride and groom, anybody should ask ahead of time. When I sign that contract, what else can I expect? Do deposits go towards my final cost? That's another one of every dollar I pay you, does that go towards my bottom line? So those are some recommendations for our planners that they can ask ahead of time that may give them clarity to what exactly the total cost of their event's going to be.
Great. Jim, thank you. And thank you for tuning in to the Worry-Free Podcast by Event Resources. We hope at your next event, if you need some catering, you now have some information to ask your caterer to have the best event possible. Again, thank you for watching the Worry-Free Podcast by Event Resources. I'm Lee Simmons.